ADR, this is King Black. How y'all been? It's been a very long time. I feel like I keep disappearing, and it's just because, man, I'm just trying to get my life together. There's a lot of professional, personal things going on, but I'm glad to be back again. I missed y'all definitely. Recording this before Memorial Day. I hope all of y'all have a good Memorial Day. Make the most out of any sales that you can find online out there, or if you're going out, enjoy it. Um, but definitely take a moment to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for, our country, which is ultimately what it's about. All right, so let's talk about this recession that's coming. Let's talk about I recently put out a video out there talking about how I picked up a Rolex Daytona, and I want to talk about what I think that means going forward for the economy. I mean, because if you look on YouTube right now, especially for those of us that enjoy watches, that buy watches, that are into fashion, there's a lot of videos in the past year and a half about Rolex, 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 right? A lot of AD videos, a lot of, gray market dealer videos. And with the rollout of Rolex's certified pre-owned program and hearing the details about that, about Rolex is now going to start getting into the used watch game. What does that mean while we're going through this debt ceiling issue? What does that mean while, interest rates are going up? What does it mean while student loan payments are about to start coming back into play in people's lives? What does that mean when cars are so expensive? What does that mean when everything that we're buying is so expensive? Now, a lot of people, I feel personally, with this whole COVID stimulus and student loan repayment pause, a lot of people have had extra income they wouldn't have otherwise had, especially when it comes to student loans, and especially if people put that money into like crypto and other investments. Just money came quick and easy, quick and easy, quick and easy. It was like the dot-com bubble, where it was almost impossible to lose money for a period. But now a lot of things are falling through the cracks. Some of these regional banks are declaring bankruptcy. Stock market's a little shaky. Still strong, but it's facing resistance. There's a lot of companies out there announcing layoffs, tens of thousands of positions being laid off. So you gotta imagine all of those layoffs that are happening. People, based on their salary or their income, were living a certain lifestyle, or were planning to live a different lifestyle. I mean, if you get promoted or you get hired at Amazon for $150,000 a year, what a lot of people are just going to go out and get that Lexus, get that Mercedes, get that whatever, and buy this and buy that. And then what happens with these layoffs is now you can't count on that income, but you put all this stuff on either credit, or you leased it, or you financed it, and now you can't make these payments. A finance payment on a Mercedes, if you ain't got the money to put more than half the car value down, you're talking easy, six, seven, 900, over $1,000 a month. And when you're talking about normal car payments being that high already, I mean, just the luxury market, it's just probably even crazier than that. I don't own a luxury vehicle. I mean, I'm pretty plain when it comes to that, just because I go more by MPG. So the little 34 miles that I get in the car that I have doesn't bother me yet. I'd rather pay down the rest of my debts and clear some other stuff out the way before I go ahead and buy a liability like an expensive car. Because the car isn't necessarily going to make you money unless you're purchasing it to, rent it out, or if you are making an influencer lifestyle around that vehicle and it takes off and it's all about that. So back to the whole watch thing. I had a Submariner since 2010. I had a Breitling Chronomat since say 2015. I traded both of those in and some cash and got a Daytona, right? Just to steal Daytona from the secondary market. Ain't no way I can last in those waiting lists at the ADs, and it's not like they're gonna go ahead and call me up and offer me a Daytona. So this was purchased on the secondary market. But even still, I had to trade in both those watches and also put in some cash. Had to do one of those kind of deals. So with all these videos I'm noticing on YouTube about Rolex, which Rolex is the best to get, and I'm looking at the prices online, and I'm looking at even just the Datejust are going for like, $7, $8, $9,000, when before it was easier to get a more modern Datejust for like 4, 5, and 6. And then the older ones, the 80s pieces, you can find used to be able to find them for like 1700, 2200, 2400, and that doesn't exist anymore unless it's broken. So with so many people getting into the Rolex watch game, what does that mean once the economy tanks? So the problem I foresee, just like everything else, all the people who went out and bought the fancy Lexus, the Hellcats, the high-end Mercedes, the high-end BMWs. Same thing with the repossession game is going high right now. Cars are getting repossessed at historic levels. People can't afford the payments. Then when they tack on student loans actually being put back into repayment, and you have to make that payment, people are going to fall further behind on their stuff. There's over like 3 million Americans that are behind on their utility bills already as it is. So when it comes to the watch game, if you just recently got this money or you recently jumped into it, unless you're willing to sacrifice on everything else and sell everything else before you get to that watch, even with Rolex getting into the game and also buying up watches, I feel like a whole bunch of watches are going to flood the market over the next 2 years, because people are going to have to now sell it at a loss to cover their other costs. I mean, having a Rolex is nice, but if they're about to evict you and they're about to cut your light off and cut your internet off and you got a family, you're like, man, you're going to have no choice but to take that take that loss, and get rid of that watch, even if it means taking a $2, $3, $4, $5,000 hit. And when you have hundreds of thousands of people doing that, now the market is flooded. And even if Rolex is getting into the whole certified pre-owned game, there's only so much that they'll probably be willing to buy, and there's an age limit on how new the watch has to be for them to buy it back. So you're gonna get this, and if you watch other YouTubers out here, I personally love like CRM, and who else do I watch? Well, basically, I just really hammer on CRF. I watch all these other ones like the Time Teller, Teddy. I just put in whatever luxury watch dealers or luxury watch reviews or Rolex watch reviews, but anyways, so even on these type of videos over the past 9 months, up to a year, you're seeing them putting out videos about the price, the market turning, going down like this. But then at the same time, in those videos, you can still see a lot of people coming in and buy. So the problem is coming to when it comes time to people to sell. The resale values are starting to fall. I mean, a lot of these dealers have taken hits, unfortunately. I mean, same thing with these car dealers right now. I mean, they paid top dollar for the used car trade-ins. Now that they're sitting on it, they're gonna have to start selling at losses now. Because people aren't able to afford $700 payment on a Corolla. You know what I'm saying? Or a $900, or matter of fact, a $1,200 payment on a Ford F-150 from 2011 or 2010. It's out of reach. Because then you throw into that, rent's $1,000 or $800. Then you got food, you got your health insurance, you got gas, you got utilities, you got your other expenses. You go out to eat. Groceries has gone up. So, it's going to be quite a whirlwind, this downturn we're going to have. And that's why at least I've advocated in my other videos why you need to diversify, have a little bit things of, savings, but also cash, but also stocks, stuff that you can sell and get in and out of, you know what I'm saying, as the needs require. So, like, for now, even if the worst case were to happen, like, I feel like I have enough on the back end to carry myself over for at least a year. Beyond a year, that's where things may get shaky, but at least 12 months, I'll be alright. I'll be good. Not a lot of people can say that right now. If today you didn't have no more income coming in and you still had to pay the same amount of bills or 10 to 15% more, how long can you last on what you got? When you start looking around, and you're like, dang, worst came to worst, I got to sell my PlayStation 5, or worst came to worst, I got to go ahead and put my Jordans on StockX or whatever. You start doing these little mini inventories in your mind, and you're like, man, am I really in trouble, or am I going to be all right? The problem is that, unfortunately, a lot of people live this YOLO mentality as if they're not going to live another 30 or 40 years. I understand we can go at any time. Tomorrow isn't promised, but you have to prepare at the same time. You have to not spend every dollar that you get. And I know when you're in your late teens, your early 20s, it's easy to just not worry about money. Because for a time period, depending on the type of personality you have, you don't really notice the ripple effects for another few years. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is when you're in your late teens, early 20s, for the most part, most of us are not thinking about, man, I want to buy a house. So when you get paid $1,000, you're spending 900 of it, either on utilities, and all the other stuff. But then you're also going out to eat. You're doing this, or you're doing that. You're buying a new belt. You're buying clothes. You're buying this and buying that. But then you don't realize, in order to be competitive in the market, you need to come with money at the table. Or even if you don't need money, you need something for closing costs. And for any of us that have already gone through the home buying process, you already know that money has to be considered like hard money, meaning that money has to already have been in your account for at least 2 months. You can't just scrounge money together from grandma, aunt, auntie, uncle, parents at the last second, a week before you contact the real estate agent, and they get the ball moving on that, because they're going to see that 2 months ago you only had like $100 in there. So you need to establish that history of you already had that balance in there to cover the closing costs. And then if you don't want to pay PMI, which is mortgage insurance, you got to make sure that you have enough to also cover a down payment. Then you have to also make sure you have money to cover, if you're in a bidding war, to cover any extra offers that you're willing to do. Also to cover an inspection, it was like $500 or something like that. Any of these little miscellaneous things that come up. If you have to break a lease, when you purchase a home, and then you gotta have the money to pay out your lease and get out of that. So scary times ahead, man. Over the next 6 months, for those of us whose jobs aren't necessarily secure, I mean, you're gonna see a dip in a lot of things. When people ain't got no money, that DoorDash, Grubhub is gonna stop. That's gonna affect the drivers. More businesses are gonna go out of business. They're gonna declare bankruptcy. Car market is gonna be flooded. I mean, for people who got money, and for people who got enough savings to cover it, and who's willing to be a little bit more risky, that's gonna be the time to invest and to buy. Because what goes down must come back up at one point. So, I'm glad I got my Daytona now, but I feel like maybe with how my mind frame is looking at, and how I'm looking at things, and how I'm trying to look at the big picture, and how people's budget works, maybe 10 months from now, a year from now, Daytonas would be like 10 grand less than where they're at right now, for a steel one. if not more. And that would be a bargain to get into the Rolex game. Or the Submariners would have dropped 3 to 5K, if not more, in 10 months to a year from now. Car prices are gonna dip back down. Hopefully, I can pick up a truck on the cheap. These Ford F-150s, Dodge Rams that they're out here trying to sell at 70. I'm trying to pick that bad boy up when it's in like the mid 30s, early 40s. And even then, extremely low mileage if it's used, or pick it up new with all these incentives. But then you got interest rates that are going higher. You got, for those of us who carry credit card balances, that's affecting our pockets too. So you're trying to pay down and debt snowball as fast as possible, as hard as possible, your high interest debt, because it just gets more expensive to carry that debt, to maintain that debt. So I've also been trying to pay down that stuff. Slowly but surely, I'm hammering it down. You know, when you got kids and stuff like that, it's a lot harder to just be on a ramen noodle diet and then completely hammer it out. But, it is what it is, and I'm getting it done. Point is, I'm not adding further to my overall debt balance. Month to month, I'm always carrying over a net plus. So, another important thing is be realistic with where you at income wise and live within that. You know what I'm saying? Or live slightly less so you can save more. And I cannot understate the importance of having an emergency fund, because you never know when your car is going to break down, when you face some unexpected tax bill, when you get some unexpected medical bill. You want to be able to cover these things. But, what do you think is going to happen over the next 10 to 12 months? Is it going to be a complete panic? Is it going to be a complete crash and burn? Or is it going to be just a slow ride down, 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 and then we see what happens from there? But glad to be back. ADR, King Black, y'all stay safe out there.